Okay, thank you for joining. This is the briefing session for the DigCBA project, digital cash-based responsible use of digital cash-based assistance in refugee crisis. We have a couple of items in our agenda today. We would do a short presentation of the project, what it is basically, and who is involved, and who are the partners, and what is the question, what is the thing that we are looking into. Then we would also present what we have so far found, or what are the latest outcomes of the project. There would be some time for question and answers at that point. And then we would go into 2 workshop sessions. My colleagues would give you information about those sessions later. And then each session would follow with presenting a summary of results, and then we would wrap up in the end. Today, who are we today in this session? I thought it was that we just mention who we are. So my name is Hossein Baharmand. I'm leading this project, an associate professor at the University of Agder in the southern part of Norway. Today with me we have Naimo Said, and she's a professor at the School of Business and Law at the University of Agder. We have Ahmed Abukonim, and he is a researcher and a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Agder. From Hanken School of Economics, from the Himmelhoek Institute, we have Amin Mahsoudi, and he is a postdoctoral researcher. Same with Abdus Salam, and he's also doing his postdoctoral fellowship at the Himmelhoek Institute. And we also have Wojciech Petrowicz, who is an associate professor at the Himmelhoek Institute and the director of the Himmelhoek Institute. So he's also at the present at the session. But today, mainly 5 of us would be presenting or talking to you. So the DigCBA project is we began with the project in November 2021, and it's a 3-year project. The information about the project is on the website. If you would like, you can go there and check the project information, the funding body, partners, and more details. That's a 3-year project. It also includes a lot of reference group members and several reference group members, and also practitioners involved, but I will talk about them later. What is this project about? We mainly aim to support policymakers who are involved in cash-based assistance to make an informed decision about using digital technologies in cash-based assistance. The target is to develop an intuitive decision support system. It could be in form of a website. It could be in form of some figures, or we haven't reached that point yet. So that's also unclear to us, and that's why we would like to present quite often to also find the right way for making it. But then but the overall aim is to have it in a way that it can support in the simplest way. And the question that we have defined in the research project is, how can we support policymakers for the responsible use of digital cash-based assistance in refugee crisis? But then some of you might think about, okay, what does the responsible use of digital technologies mean in this context? We think that digital responsible use is that the people who are selecting or choosing the technology, they should have clear knowledge about what the consequences would be in the short term and the long term. So it's not only thinking about, okay, now this technology is available, or there are business partners or commercial providers who could support the organization to adopt this technology. But there should be also some thinking about what would be the short-term and long-term consequences, and how the digital technology itself could contribute for an equal and dignified access to humanitarian assistance in the form of cash-based assistance. So that's what we refer to as the responsible use. In the project, there are 5 partners. There's the University of Agder, and from the University of Agder, there is this Center for Integrated Emergency Management. We have the Humlog Institute from the Hanken School of Economics. We have the Norwegian University of Technology and Science, NTNU. We have WW Munster from Germany, and Makerere University Business School from Uganda. As I said, this research is funded by the Research Council of Norway for 2 years. We also have a couple of practitioners on board as our reference group. We have practitioners from the Norwegian Refugee Council, from the Danish Refugee Council, from the Oxfam Australia. We are also in touch with CULP Network, and we have recently welcomed an expert from UNHCR who is also working with cash-based assistance for refugees. But most of you know that all of these organizations that you see the logos here, most of them they are highly engaged in cash-based assistance. So that's the reason they have been invited. We are also open to invite more practitioners on board. So if at the end of this session you find out that this project is interesting for yourself or for your organization, and you would like to get involved in a way, in any way, I mean, hearing about the results, getting updates, participating in the events, we would have multiple workshops each year. So if you're interested, just send me an email or inform Amin or Abdul Salam, who are there in the session, and then they would make sure that you would be informed about the next stages in the project. The primary objective of our project is to, as I said, develop an evidence-based framework for supporting the policymakers. But the question that comes up again next is that, okay, what are those frameworks? What are the targets? How are we aiming to develop those frameworks? So we want to support the selection and the use of most suitable digital technology for delivering cash-based assistance to refugees based on three main pillars. We are thinking about the contextual contextual requirements, like, for instance, the context for refugee camps in Uganda might be different from the context of refugee camps in Jordan or Syria, and also so on and so forth. So the contextual and beneficiaries requirements are different. That's one of the pillars that we are thinking about. The next pillar is about the relative technology readiness of humanitarian organizations and other actors from the sector. That's also a key aspect, because not every organization has the capacity or resources to use a wide range of technologies. My colleague Ahmed would talk about the technologies later on in a couple of minutes. And then the relative technology readiness of business partners. And here we talk about the vendors, we talk about any business partner who is involved in the cash-based assistance process. So these are the three main pillars that we have been thinking about when proposing this project. I would like to open the floor here now and ask you if you see that there is any pillar missing. Please let us know. We currently have allocated each of these pillars to one of the partners. So the Honken team, who is present now today, is taking care of the contextual and beneficiaries requirements. They also have this cash recovery project ongoing. So the other two partners are taking care of the other two pillars. But we are also open to know more about if there's any pillar that we haven't been thinking about. So please let us know. And then, yeah, that's it for me. I look forward to discuss further with you about this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hussein, for a great presentation. But before we go to the next presenter, Ahmed, is there any question or comments from the audience presenting here or the participants online? And write in the chat box, those who are online on Zoom.
There's a question about if there is a recording. Yes, we are recording this session. Then I will send you the link to the recording probably later this evening or tomorrow morning.
If not, we go to the next presentation, and then we're gonna have a discussion at the end of the session. So I think we can
on the pillars that have been presented. If they
have
any additional pillars.
So we can discuss about the pillars later on during the discussion session. Thank you, Hussein, for the presentation. So now, Ahmed, the floor is yours. Please open up your microphone and share your slides.
Okay, you see my slides, Sami?
Yes.
Perfect. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Abu Ghunaim. I work for the University of Agder, and I would like to introduce some of the results, a glimpse of the results that we have arrived at from one of the first. Yes. My sound is.
Yeah, it's not very clear.
Okay. Perhaps I could just stop my video and to keep the screen. Okay. I'm Ahmed Abu Ghanem. I am affiliated with the Center of Integrated Emergency Management of the University of Agder. I would like to introduce today, through my presentation, a glimpse of the results that we have arrived at from the one of the very first processes of our DigCBA project, which is the literature review in connection with the cash-based assistance methodology. So I will start by showing you the research questions that we are after in this for this specific deliverable. I will give you a glimpse of the review process and then show a little bit of the results and examples of what we have arrived at. We have a couple of research questions that we are aiming at. First of all, this first work package aims at developing a conceptual framework based on literature review and best practices for further study in other work packages. From that, we have came up with two research questions. The first one is about the technologies that are currently used for cash-based assistance. The other question is about the aspects or features of feasibility requirements in terms of data infrastructure conditions in the target countries of these CBA technologies. When we talk about the aspects, features, or feasibility requirements, we are thinking of different dimensions like technical dimension, economic, legal, operational, schedule, or societal. Our review process is actually on based on two pillars. One of them is a systematic academic literature review, and the other one is an exploratory approach through search engines. The point is that in the academic literature review, we couldn't really find much information on the cash-based assistance methodologies that we are after. So an exploratory approach was inevitable to find out and answer our research question. Concerning the systematic academic literature review, we have focused on three different databases: Scopus, IEEE Explorer, and the BESCO. For the exploratory approach, we have used the Google search engine basically with words that refers to cash-based assistance methodologies and humanitarian aids on those specific different websites and more from humanitarian organizations. We finished this with Google in general without specifying websites. From the academic sources, we came with 292 results from Scopus, 330 from IBESCO, and 28 from IEEE Explorer. Some of those were, of course, redundant. So we came with 566 references. Unfortunately, only 20 of them were found suitable. The other rejected papers were mainly medical papers or targeting incorrect types of migrants, or even using acronyms like the CVA to mean something different. From the exploratory research approach, we came up with this taxonomy of the digital payment methods. This is not comprehensive. We cannot claim that. We came up with this through the internet, and we are continuing this. And it would be great if you could suggest more or refer us to more sources that we can find more. In the current screen, you can see the digital payment method that we came up with. For those which are used in humanitarian aids, you will find them in blue boxes. So we have we have cards, which are basically linked with debit or credit accounts at banks for the beneficiaries to receive the payments through their cards to be used with ATM or points of sales. We have electronic payment systems, which are mainly an electronic transfer of money from the bank account of the organization to another, to the beneficent bank account, and then through any way, through the bank itself or through any other method, the beneficiaries could use their money. We have the mobile payment apps, which are apps that allow to use the mobile phones to make in-store purchases. We have the mobile wallets, which are linked with cards or bank accounts, in addition to storing some monetary values. Those wallets are being used inside the stores and other ways of purchasing needed stuff for the beneficiaries. Also, the contactless payment, which are either cards, key fobs, smart cards, or other devices, including, of course, smartphones or other mobile devices like watches that use the radio frequency identification or the NFC for making secure payments. Those are some of the results that we came up with, just examples of the taxonomy that we have shown. The active e-cards cash transfer program in Libya, just to meet the needs of the internally displaced Libyans, acted involved its unconditional multi-purpose cash assistance program with introducing prepaid cards, which can be used to purchase essential items. We have also e-cards for the Syrian families at Turkish camps in Turkey, the Wallet Food Program, and the Red Crescent of Turkey. They came with the e-food card that assists the Syrian refugees in living camps. The program was supported to extended to support families that are living outside the camps. We have also the UNHCR in Uganda, financial inclusion and digital cash payments. Those are bank accounts that are regular bank accounts fully owned by the refugees, carrying legal rights similar to the Ugandan people. We have also the LUIS, which is Lebanon One Unified Inter-Organization System for refugees in Lebanon. Also, Plug Pay, refugees in Zambia, mainly the refugees from the Democratic Republic of Congo, through bank accounts or mobile wallets. We also found a methodology that's called the last mile. This one works in 48 countries. They have different cash distribution solutions, electronic vouchers, mobile bank deposits, mobile payments. One important thing about this specific method is that they have their own way of making ID cards for the beneficiaries. We also found the electronic cash transfer. We also found the mobile wallets in Jordan by Mercy Corps. They use different methods, mobile payment services, something called Dinarak, cash transfer via Joy Mo Pay, Jordanian mobile payment to pay bills through eFawatir.com. We also in Jordan found Mahfazdi, which is a mobile wallet. Also in Rwanda, bank accounts with cards for Rwanda refugees in Rwanda. Also the mobile money for Venezuelans, displacement crisis in Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Those are just a few examples of what we came up with through the exploratory approach. And this is what we are. In addition to your question, of course, we would like to hear your opinion about this specific question to complete our work in this work package, which is what our technologies could be used for delivering cash-based assistance to refugees. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions to me.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, for the presentation. Yes, you may know that this project have been just started, and then it's like we explore the area and the focus of study more on digitalization of cash-based assistance. And you know that this cash-based assistance is like a kind of process from needs assessment, which need like go through the verification and then for the cash transfer and then monitoring. So so we're gonna have a discussion session on the question which raised here, and then if we can group the participants, so if we can share together first in a group with the question. Can you share the question here, Ahmed, the slide? Or Naima, you want to?
Yes, I will share the link, and then I will divide the online participants into different groups. So please just 1 minute. So please check this link, and then I will start the first session.
We need to sign in. I think you need to start the WOOC lab, and then the audience will see the QR code to be shared here on the screen.
Okay.
Because now if we click, it goes to the like a signing, and we need to log in with our information. So, but if you start, so we can just see the link.
Yeah, it seems
Can you also just share the question here so we can discuss it here? So the first one, I think is
Ahmed has shared the question, the first question.
Thank you.
Ahmed, could you please share it again, the first question?
Yeah.
So from the participant here, can we discuss about this? Like first, what technologies or platform being used? I mean, could be for the delivery mechanism, for the cash transfer itself, or for verification, such as RIS. I mean, you guys are experts, I know, from IDNIC, and then you had like project in different countries. Or perhaps you can raise your hand, discuss, or we can just group you and then you share your thoughts with us, like within 10 minutes or something. What do you think is convenient? In group first? Yeah. So maybe a group of those who are like sitting together, maybe one group.
We can all stay one group.
Yeah, I think it's fine like that. One group is fine. Yeah.
I think you covered many of them in the examples you on the previous slides.
Yes.
Perhaps you left off some of the more traditional methods, like through traditional FSPs like Western Union, MoneyGram, etc.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I will divide the online participant into breakup rooms.
Yeah, sure. Please.
So just 1 minute, please.
Yeah. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of ones that you didn't show. We of course we identify beneficiaries digitally, and then we transact with them digitally over blockchain. But in terms of the delivery of the cash itself, yeah, in the end, it needs to either be one of the cards you showed, or an agent to cash out the beneficiary. So I think there's various ways that you can deliver cash, but I think in the end, it's going to end up either on a card or in fiat in their hands from a cash out agent.
Do you think that like applying this kind of digitalization of the cash-based systems is really context specific? Like, for example, even in case of Uganda.
Sorry to interrupt you, Amin. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, yeah.
And here you can see the information how to participate.
Yes. Can you go to the next and then, yeah. Go back. For the online participant, yeah, they can just go click on the links. Now it's open. And then share your thoughts, please. You can write it down or scan the QR code with the question, and then just share your thoughts online, or we can discuss it here physically, face to face.
Yeah, I think you have to
go next.
Open the call.
Can you go to next? So it will be started. On the right side, there is an arrow.
Okay. Yes. So here is the question, and here they need to answer.
Okay, blockchain. Yeah. The idea of blockchain humanitarian aid, even though it's not very new, since many years, it's been provided and also integrated with different platforms, information systems, and scanning. And one problem with the blockchain that was like first about the literacy. So how the people, like for example, in emerging economies countries, they can be like use such digitalization. And then the other issue was like you cannot control and like do the changes or modification within the systems. But I would like to hear your thoughts on if you had piloted or any kind of digitalization of using different platforms, maybe share with us.
Yeah, I think I can say about the Adonic platform.
Yeah.
So we're using blockchain and tokenization. The blockchain part and the tokenization part is just for the back end or the lead organization.
Yeah.
The reason for using blockchain is because for trust, transparency, and immutability. This is so you can actually track and trace the financial aid flow in real time. It's not to do with the beneficiaries themselves. They don't have to understand the blockchain technology themselves. They just have a web link to create their own wallet or profile
Okay.
that they completely are in control of and own, so they can delete their personal identifiable information. So the blockchain brings numerous benefits for users, i.e. the lead organization delivering the aid and relief. And we won't go into a deep dive in that. The tokenization part is basically tokenizing the aid and relief. So we're tokenizing using the QR code.
Okay.
So in the digital side, we at Adonic tokenize 17 different types of aid and relief. These can be customized, so beneficiaries can use that within a local ecosystem. So within the marketplace assessments. So you can, it's not say that you restrict them, but you can, with cash, physical cash, there's challenges associated with this that's been documented. With tokenization or using a QR code, you actually allocate whatever the needs are, either from the beneficiary themselves or from the lead organization. If it's food, if it's for going to the supermarket, if it's for school meals, education. Yeah, so you can tokenize that using a QR code. So they physically go in and exchange that just by scanning that by the local merchants, shops and businesses. So there's a lot of efficiencies in terms of financial efficiency rather than using FSPs or mobile network operators. Adonic solution is a standalone solution. So the actual transfer from receiving institutional funding or money, donor money, all the way through to the last mile to the aid beneficiaries is a lot quicker than using traditional FSPs and using that route.
Okay. So how much, like, let's say if it's like a $1 of aid, how much will, beneficiaries received
$1
at the end of the day?
We basically use the Stellar blockchain. So there they use a token called Star Lumens. So one Star Lumen is backed one-to-one with whatever fiat currency you choose.
Okay.
But we're using a blockchain to transfer that. So the value is exactly that.
Okay, there's no transaction fees.
How much are the transaction fees? They're quite minimal.
No.
Yeah.
But then you still have your fees for Adonic. for
Services,
example.
yeah.
And then the NGO could add fees to that they might have for the overhead on the project, the indirect costs. So that still is determined by the NGO. But in terms of at the end of the day, what they decide to transfer, once they decide that amount is going to go to the beneficiary.
Yeah.
There's nothing. The blockchain, or it's not going to go into some hidden fees or something like that.
So everything is clear up front to the donor, be them institutional donors or supporters, members of the public. They can actually see, they don't see all the actual transactions, but they see how much has actually gone to the project directly to the end beneficiaries themselves. And everything is done in real time. So you have your proof of analytics. The monitoring reporting is done whenever you need to produce a report, and you can analyze everything with the back end of the dashboard with the analytics. The main thing to reference here, though, is that we adhere to GDPR and also the RCRC's do no harm in the digital era. Your session yesterday was mentioning about the Syria example.
Yeah.
So the Adonic solution is a standalone solution, but we have an open API that we can integrate with FSPs or MNOs. Okay, but that's up to the lead organization that uses the tech themselves. We have the platform and the tool, and it's entirely up to them how they want to, distribute that aid itself. If they want to use FSPs or a mobile network operator itself. But the platform is a tool, which is a powerful tool to strengthen the gaps and challenges within the sector, and focusing more on the cash and voucher assistance as well.
Yeah. One of the big concerns was about the I mean, the data first about the access to data of the beneficiaries, and there was like kind of, last time from ICRC, some data were hacked from the beneficiaries, like personal information, bank account, and etc. So for you as a private sector, which you collaborate in connecting with the humanitarian organization and also with the people who are affected, for example, refugees, how do you see this data privacy concern from your side of view as a private sector? So is it like now with this digital platform, you mentioned that the beneficiaries are secured, so nobody can access to their data. But what if, for example, government interferes need to access the data, which happened in Syria or in Afghanistan?
Joe, would you like to answer?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, certainly the beneficiary, the beneficiary data that is resting with the beneficiary, it's as secure as they are knowledgeable. It's like your own iPhone. If you don't put a passcode on it, then of course you have weakness there. And so I think on that side of things, as more and more beneficiaries engage in digital transactions like this, there's a need on behalf of the organizations to increase the literacy on digital technologies. So with MedAir, before we onboarded beneficiaries, we went through like a survey with them to identify the beneficiary group and score sort of which of them are going to have struggles with digital literacy and which of them are strong. And there's various questions we designed in order to find out which of the clients are going to have struggles. And then for the clients that we understand are going to have a low digital literacy, we spend much more time with them to make sure they understand what they're engaged in. On the ADONIC side of things, once the data is resting with the organization, then they do various things to split it up into different servers so that certain PII data is not associated with other PII data. So basically compartmentalizing it. And I have to confess, I don't know how all that is done. But of course, there's like a standard they need to reach. I think the most important thing though is still that we don't want to collect data and keep data that is sensitive that we don't have a clear present use for in the moment. So that's one of the advantages of making sure that beneficiaries understand that they control their data. So when they create their profile on the platform, it's them who can delete the profile once they've received their entitlement. And so we take steps to show them, here's where the delete button is. If you don't want to delete it after you receive your cash, you don't have to, but it's there. And there's the phone number associated with it. And this exists online. And some of them choose to delete it, and some of them choose not to. And so I think it's, I think there's sometimes a desire to rest upon technology to solve security problems, but I think probably it's just as important for NGOs to go out there and spend the time educating clients in how to be secure. And that will just have to be part of the programming.
Part of the program. For like all the partners, and also this kind of the digital literacy need to be taken into account, like for the duration of program, how it's like assessed and monitored. So we got quite people wrote on the book club also virtual debit cards that mentioned tokenization, online banks, blockchain, Web3, and quite successful programs. Also, Ahmed mentioned during the presentation, the Louis program, Common Cash Facility, which is like kind of collaboration of multiple agencies. They use single platform instead of like using a couple of platforms, and then each single organization, they do just their own. For example, UN agencies, they go through that like Louis program and then provide the cards, so to the beneficiaries, they can just redeem in the shelves whatever they need. Do you think that is like this joint programs, joint platforms is efficient, or is like what are the challenges for like joining? Is it like for more like a scaled organization, bigger, they can just do that? But how about the smaller NGOs or the local agencies?
That's a good question. So sometimes, there are systems that are already existing legacy systems within the UN system, that they have partners, but then depending on, like I said, going down to the local, regional, national, who's involved, there is fragmentation. With large organizations, there comes, some challenges in terms of who's delivering what, for example, CDA, in terms of if it's health, shelter protection, SGBV. So again, and it's been mentioned, I think, even from last year's Humanitarian Networks Partnership Weeks, and that collaboration is key, coordination, communication. So because I'm from Adonic, I'll talk about Adonic's platform, our platform. The lead organization can have multiple implementing partners. And again, you can tier the permissions in terms of, similar to other normal computer systems, where you can permission the tiers, if they can read or write or adjust any information there, and how much information is shared with those partners. But you have an overall view that's geographical, that can cover countries, areas, regions, and you can know what the implementing partners are doing, working on what, how much is actually being spent on each specific area for cash and voucher assistance. So and it's all done in real time. So speaking for the Adonic platform, we can address all of that with the features and benefits that we have. But again, we also believe in the localization agenda as well. And that's how the platform was designed, because of the founder, Severus Aidin's 9 years plus of having his own INGO. It was also to support the local businesses, the livelihoods there. So within the ecosystem that we have, within the lead organization and implementing partners, you also have service providers as well, which are local businesses, markets within the community or within a certain area geographically where the context of crisis is, where they can also be part of the ecosystem and also provide their services and goods to the cash and voucher programming efforts itself.
Yes, please.
Just offer one reflection. Your question was, could these platforms offer increased efficiency, right? So could, by doing, let's say, joint delivery, offer efficiency? And I think looking at the examples online, including the Louise and other examples, the key takeaway is that efficiency in terms of platforms can only go so far. The key efficiencies are things like not duplication, right? Targeting the right people, ensuring that there's a coherent way that we approach response.
Exactly.
So I think it's always a really interesting conversation when we focus on what technology can do, but a lot of this is coming down to just good programming. A lot of this is coming down to how we as a collective program in the most effective and therefore efficient way that ensures that we target collectively, we meet the needs collectively as well, and that we, when we look at the kind of minor benefits that we can scrape in terms of efficiencies of specific systems, they are dwarfed by what it means if we duplicate, or indeed more importantly, what it means if we leave out a number of population groups. So I just wanted to offer that one reflection as well. Thanks.
I think just to add to that, our system has also been, it's been designed with communities and people at the focus, and also we have a flag system where if there's duplication of data, either biometric or if it's inputted, we have a flag, red flag, or a flag marker that means that the appropriate person at the lead organization looks into that, why there is duplication, because I agree with you, I think duplication, triplication of relief and aid as the resources takes away the resources, but the platform can actually do that. So tech is there, and agree, depending on how the data is done, but we also have a remote beneficiary management onboarding system that they can onboard themselves to take away that human error as well, because humans are prone to error as well. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Is there any from online participant want to open the microphone or talk? There are some notes here. Okay. Taking care of Ahmed. Naima, could you go to the next question?
Okay, sure. Before moving to the next question, I just want to ask the online participants, was it okay with the breakout session? Do you get the access to vote, or should I continue like this where everyone can see?
I think now it's locked, so they cannot answer anymore, right?
Yeah,
Or-
but during the breakout session, was it okay, or just?
So it's been 2 years pandemic. We're still learning how to
Yeah.
work with this hybrid mode.
Okay, so I got the message that stay in plenary. So I will now divide the participant into breakout room, and I will share the screen and the next question. I hope it is okay. So this is the next question. Remember the technology that you suggested in the previous round? What are the requirements from any perspective, for instance, refugees, culture, organizations, or government? Infrastructure, etc. So this is the second question.
Okay. Online people start answering. So can we have the discussion here continued? Any thoughts you want to share with us on technology requirements? Perhaps if you like kind of with your organization implemented a program or pilot a program which you used any kind of digital platforms on whatsoever, mobile money, blockchain, IR scanning or any kind of technology, and then you found that as a private sector or as a humanitarian organization or as a donor, what kind of requirements like need to be in place before you apply such technological platforms? It could be like, you know, infrastructure, it could be economic factor or culture, anything, regulations. It's very broad, I'm sure, but if you could specify your experience, if from the field or you have read some reports and it said, okay, yeah, this is very challenging to apply. For example, this is not gonna work, mobile money is not gonna work. We still need to do cash by hand to certain people. That happened in Syria because of lack of ATM machines, the failure, and then there was nobody to fix the machines, and then pandemic happened, skilled labor like out of the country. So for like a couple of days, people, they cannot withdraw their money. So that was the like a technical failure and the poor infrastructure, of course. So they're like organization, they need to go for the cash door-to-door, distribution. But in certain like urban areas in Damascus was like kind of efficient, more banks, institutes around. So debit card works. So just I give an example. If you have an example or experience you want to share with us among the audience. Maybe Adionic, the first speak.
Yeah, I think it's really context specific. It requires a good understanding of where, you know, what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to achieve it amongst who you're trying to achieve it with.
Exactly.
I think without these three things, yeah, you'd be very foolhardy to just start using any platform or any modality. But I suppose, speaking generally, yeah, you need to make sure that it's going to end up easy to use for your clients, like whatever population that you're targeting, that they will be able to follow the steps that they need to follow in order to receive the cash or whatever, or vouchers, and then whoever gave you the money, you need to make sure you're compliant with them. So whatever sort of reporting you're going to have to deliver to them, that you will have everything to make sure it's compliant. And I think, like, those would be for the very basic things, but I think beyond that, you need to look at the security of the entire operation, and you're not taking any assumptions, and then build up your project from there.
Go through the risk assessment, and then what kind of risk can go through the beneficiaries, and also humanitarian stuff behind that, the risk of kind of selecting vendors, and this can be very challenging if you select a couple of vendors and then not select others, and it's can be no conflict of interest, and then monopoly or whatsoever can happen for the selection. So that is very important for going through this kind of requirements at the first place before going to this digital cash-based assistance.
Probably the challenge here for most humanitarians is understanding and satisfying the requirements and doing anything with relative speed. And so it's a tension that is ever present, but I think duplication and things like this are extremely important. However, also is putting cash into the hands of people early on in the onset. So finding the right balance here, I think, is sort of the main role of the humanitarian.
Exactly.
Sometimes,
Yes, sure.
sometimes after a natural disaster, technology doesn't work because the systems and infrastructure is destroyed. So you may be able to plan fast delivery of cash in hand for the first weeks, and then while the network goes back online. Another, for example, in the Syria context, the sanctions and blacklisted of financial service providers is liability, because maybe you check today and they are okay, but maybe in a month's time. And also in the context of Syria and the government controlled areas, the government is now promoting the digitalization. The ecosystem is changing, but it's not a clear landscape yet. There are a lot of pilots, a lot of it's controlled by the central bank and by the Ministry of Technology. So you need to keep different stakeholders engaged to get the latest news, because information can age very quickly, and also for political reasons, etc., things can get blocked quite quickly. There was one organization that wanted to do a e-voucher pilot at scale, and it took them almost, it was supposed to happen last September, and I think it just happened last month. So it's quite
and one of the pioneers, I guess, was the electronic voucher program by a World Food Program, which is done many years ago successfully. But about the other local NGO implementing partners, I think nowadays with this kind of restriction from the government, they need to see the interest in how it works, and they need a couple of perhaps approval before they go. And it's going through the financing, and then know your customer regulation. It's it's a big issue. Thank you. Any other thoughts you want to share with us? Here they wrote about understanding the context, the complaint, GDPR, security, multilingual, ease of use. So perhaps these are the kind of some of them, the technical aspects of the programs. So that all of them are quite important if we can group them. And
So
Yeah.
there is a question on the chat box.
Yeah.
And does the technology meet the needs of the beneficiaries, the people using it, and user perspective?
This is one of the requirements. We need to actually needs of the beneficiaries very, very important. If they prefer, for example, how to receive cash. Some they prefer to still, like in rural areas in certain context, they still need to receive the physical cash. Like elderly, is in Middle East, in Africa, perhaps.
Yeah.
So definitely mobile money not gonna work. Or in certain contexts, mobile money works well, like in Jordan, Lebanon, or in Uganda. And then the people are like get familiar with that, with the ease of use. So of course the beneficiaries have to be in center, definitely. So whether they're like kind of, what is the feasibility? Because sometimes it's very difficult for them to travel to for example, get the money from the banks or like register from distribution point on like receiving the codes or something like that. So one of the donors also always all the time they emphasize on like kind of focusing on the needs of the beneficiaries, whether if like they can comply with their needs. Any other thoughts from the audience online or here? Or Naima, if you want to say something, Ahmed.
Just about the online participants, would you like to add any comment or any suggestion? And also related to the previous question, because unfortunately, because of some technological issues, they did not have access. So if they would like to add something, their thoughts about the previous question, please feel free.
Yeah. So we always have technical issues, even here. The project also related to that, so it's not gonna 100% works.
Okay, so we got the question from James. This discussion is ignoring the elephant in the room. In almost all cases, recipients cash out at the earliest opportunity via ATMs or agent, etc. Is this aspect part of the digital discussion? Anyone would like to say in response to this comment?
I'm not sure that.
Also, I didn't understand the question.
I'm not sure it would be contradictory to digital cash.
Yeah.
Like, digital cash could still be withdrawn at an ATM.
ATMs, he mentioned that it's like they're digital, but not a payment mechanism. So yeah, still they are digital, and this is like happen also often. So the people goes to the bank and it's like, they're faced with this cash out, and then they have to return back, and especially in like, unsafe or insecure areas, it could be troublesome for the beneficiaries. So I'm not sure that how humanitarian organization approach this, not to face with. So they communicating well. Maybe they need more like a close collaboration with the banking institutes, with the not often this happen. And
can I offer some reflection?
Yes,
sure,
please.
Julius was saying earlier, I think it really boils down to good program design. So some of this collaboration that you were talking about and we talk a lot about is also a collaboration with the banks at the start, would they be able to actually waive the fees, or what type of account is offered? But to James's point, I think, yes, it is a well-known fact that beneficiaries would prefer to cash out and sort of as quickly as possible. But that I would be interested to hear, that dates back now maybe 5 years. Last time the research was done on this, right? So what is the latest data telling us? Because we've just lived through 2 years of a pandemic, where a lot of people, and we're still, large parts of the world are still living through it, right? Is the trend the same? Maybe the trend is now different, that actually the money is circulating digitally and is not being kind of off-ramped. So that's my challenge back to James. How recent is the data that you're quoting?
Does it often happen case by case, James, or is it?
And we know it happens.
Yeah,
yes, it was
definitely
analyzed
so. Yeah.
some years ago. Is it still the case? I mean, I think we will be seeing a slightly different trend with post-COVID.
Can you hear us online or not?
Yes. Please go ahead, James.
Oh, hello, everybody. I'm James Barron. So I'm in Scotland and an independent disaster risk management consultant. So cash is part of the disaster risk management mix. I'm not a cash expert. But it seems to me that if this debate, if this discussion and the research that goes with it ignores the fact that, and I'm quoting UNHCR from a conference last week, that in almost every case, whether you are in a closed loop system in a refugee camp in a place like Jordan or Turkey, where the infrastructure is sophisticated, relatively speaking, or in somewhere where the infrastructure is less robust, recipients in almost every case want to cash out. It provides them with the dignity and all the arguments we know about cost benefit. But we seem to miss a trick here, that some of the mechanisms, and I referred earlier to your slide number 6, when talking about payments mechanisms, you talk about prepaid cards and all the rest of it. There are many different types of prepaid and debit card, but ATMs never get discussed as a means of cashing out. So the ultimate recipient, the beneficiary, wants to cash out, and yet we think as a humanitarian entity that we've transferred the money through a mobile wallet or a card of some type, or an e-voucher using an iris scan or other, and we think the job is done. Is your research looking at what the beneficiary is demanding and trying to do, which is called cashing out? And yes, it is clear that governments, can I say more authoritarian governments, we just heard about the Syria case, want to move to digital transfers. Well, of course they do. It raises tax revenue, but from the poorest. They do nothing to raise tax from the wealthiest, who continue to avoid. And they can control the data wake. And so they begin to know who's doing what. Is that really the society we want? Is that the society that humanitarian aid agencies should be fostering? And if I can, let me finish the rant. Does your research adequately reflect that? I'm concerned that the partners you mentioned right at the beginning are all members of the Better Than Cash Alliance. They are probably all receiving funding from the MasterCard Foundation or MasterCard directly. Does this disqualify their research? And is this why you only got 20 admissible papers out of 566, which is a really bad score? Is that because the aid world is not doing its job properly and not discussing the downside of all this digital discussion? Question mark. Back to you.
Thank you, James. Ahmed?
Yeah, concerning the academic literature review, this was totally independent. We just checked if you just redo the same search, you will find the same results. So we have not been affected by any partner whatsoever. This is a pure academic literature review when it comes to the academic part of it. But the reality is that there are no more papers in that concern that we could find on the academic sources. When it comes to the exploratory approach, yes, of course, it is affected by the available material over the internet at this stage. But this part is actually limited to doing this literature review. In the next stages, I believe that we will have communication with people and do some meetings that might raise some of the points that you have referred to. But this will come in later stages of the project, I believe. Hope this answers this part of your question.
Yeah, good to hear. Thanks.
I may add to this, yeah, definitely the research without the work and connection with the those people who are in the field, so including the gray literature. So we should not just rely on only academic research. So definitely the reports, papers, and need to be gone through, and then this complemented with the academic literature to see that what's going in the field compared to the theoretical research. And good points, James. Thank you for raising this. And then one of the pillars which is very important for us as a work package to see the beneficiaries' requirements. And the cash out thing you mentioned is very important to see from their angle. And definitely we need to compare the interest of different partners, including the donors, the governments, so how they prefer and what they prefer, what are their requirements, and how it matches with the beneficiaries' requirements. At the end of the day, they need to be satisfied with the services they receive. And if it's not convenient for them, if it's not easy to use, so it's kind of problematic. And there is another question in the chat box, or is a comment. Abdul Salam, can you just read the comment, please?
Okay. This is comment about, okay, for some reason, some governments would be hesitant to grant formal registrations to refugees due to challenges with compliance, KYC, as such a digital cash would not be as popular. What is the experience on such a context? So I see some agencies considering cash in hand or envelopes. So it's asking about
that's true. Yes. So what is the experience in such a context?
Yeah, in such a context, so if the government does not allow them or for a compliance reason, so cash will be necessary, or what's the experience with that situation. And I think that's also visible in some cases, particularly.
Maybe also relate to the Syrian context, those countries under sanction. So they totally closed with the international money transactions. You know what I'm talking about, because Iran also under sanction for the last 40 years. We don't have MasterCard, we don't have Visa card in the country. Traveling is not easy. You go to another country, you have to carry on cash, and you know it's not safe. But yeah, we need to change in dollar and then go to the money exchange. So the same happened also in Syria. So in that cases, have all the brokers informal, you need to trust definitely to just do these cash transfers. We don't have Western Union in Syria or in Iran or something like that. So sometimes the government try to, they have their like kind of their own local banking systems, which is sometimes like not kind of comply with these regulations or know your customer compliance. So yeah, that's the big issues. So yeah.
For refugees, I think it's hard to comply with the KYC system because that requires a lot of information and formalities. And just you run away from that area. So how can you get those documents and all these formalities? I mean, in some areas, for example, the Ethiopian refugees in Sudan nowadays, so they just run away from Tigray region to the border. So they are living almost in a rural area. There's nothing actually there. There is a small, maybe it's not a town, but it's like that. So even the banking system is not that, robust, and a lot of things are not there. So for the refugee, you cannot ask them anything if the citizen cannot get that. So how can you ask the refugees? I think so. In that case, maybe cash is a solution. But again, if the country is under sanctions, again, that will be like a double block for the government and even for the refugees. So they will be struggling 2 times or more times. So yeah. I think that's the case in some countries. It's double. It's not only one block. So you need to go through, this pain. I don't know. So.
And then another one, UNHCR negotiate your compliance structure where beneficiaries, for example, do not have formal ID. So, yeah. Good to know. Thank you. So yeah, case of UNHCR, I think is like this. That's a bit different because they are very closely collaborate with the government, but I'm not sure how it fits with the smaller NGOs in the field. And it's like kind of maybe they can learn from their like larger scale organizations. So we have 10 minutes left, and before we close the session, let's see book lab. Naima, are you with us? To see the.
Yes, I am with you, of course.
Please share the book lab. We see that the people, if they responded to the second question you mentioned.
Okay, just 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much.
So can you see the screen now?
Yes, yes.
So we got the vote for the previous question, but I cannot see any vote for this question. Answer to this question. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 answers, but I could not see any vote.
Yeah, the people also can vote here for each. Is there anything you want to raise, Anna? Or no?
I'll try to.
Okay. Yeah, as I mentioned, so this project going to start, we definitely need to go to the field to see the real practice of this digitalization of aid. A lot of ongoing issues, so about these digital transitions from traditional to technological platforms and across the country. So we need to figure out more on this in near future together with our partners. And if there is anything, Naima, you want to conclude at the end of the session?
Yeah, I can see that interesting thing is that for answer to first question, we got vote for each option. So for Web3, for virtual, for token, for online bank, for blockchain. Anyone from the online participants would like to add, or if you can give the vote online now, that would be interesting to add.
tokenization, Bitcoin.
Hello, I don't know if it is allowed, but I would like to share a piece of practice that exists at the social sector in Moscow concerning cash and virtual money as well. The social taxi, there exists such a service in Moscow, is paid not in cash but only in virtual money. There exists such a piece of practice, and it exists because of one aspect only, so that there could not exist exceeding taxes, exceeding prices for taxi. In my opinion, it is very much comfortable, but we are not yet habitualized to this part of practice, but it exists at the social sector, and it involves masses of people, and they ought to get accustomed to this piece of practice. They ought to pay not in cash but in virtual money for social taxes. As this practice is very much spread, highly accepted here in Moscow, lots of people are involved, and so we are getting accustomed to a new system of money only because of one service, one social service. So that's the point, and that is how we are getting involved. And that is how people are forced to use virtual money, and they are not alienated from this practice only because of one circumstance that exists here in Moscow. Thank you for
Thank you very much, Anna,
for the possibility, yes, for giving offer to me to share this piece of practice with other countries. And because of social and political and other contexts, we are offered this piece of practice in masses, and truly lots of people, actually thousands for each day, per day, yes, use this practice, and so we are getting accustomed to new forms of.
Can you hear me, Anna?
Sorry.
Oh, actually, we are running out of time. So thank you very much for sharing your experience. But your camera, I think, is on reverse, so we can't see you. Just dark, white, black.
I beg your pardon. Next time I will try to fix it up somehow.
No problem, no worries.
Let me know before.
Hope you're safe, and then so thank you very much, and thank you very much for all your participations.
Thank
we
you
had
all.
a very nice
It was very much helpful, and from many points, yes, from the point of many stylistics and locations, yes, and I truly estimate this form of participation. Thank you, dear colleagues.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the participation of the whole audience, both online and physical here. I really appreciate your comments. And then hope to have like more fruitful session in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we're gonna leave the meeting.